positive arc is where a character overcomes external obstacles and internal flaws to become a better person. There is self-improvement. They reject the lie and accept the truth. So, what they thought was going to solve their problem, what they thought would bring them to their goal was the lie, and they find out what's really going to help them achieve what they want, and that's the truth. And they essentially find out what will solve their flaw. A kind of progression of this arc is they believe the lie that they're unworthy of their journey, and then they're overcome by obstacles on the journey because they continue to cling to the lie that they think will solve their problems. And then they're forced to confront the truth about their inner strength. And then in the end, they believe the truth and they win whatever it is that they're trying to win. So I have a couple examples of characters with positive arcs, such as Harry Potter, obviously from the Harry Potter series, Star in The Hate U Give, Cora from A Touch of Gold, Cinder from the Lunar Chronicles, Zelly from Children of Blood and Bone. So pretty much, if you're reading about a protagonist, in most cases, they are a positive arc, because that's why they're the main character. When you're trying to figure out your main character, that's the person that has the farthest they have to go. I think I talk about that a little bit at the end, too, about what will hook your reader. So we'll go into that a little bit more. And then on to the negative arcs. This is a character's downward spiral, which is also very amusing and entertaining to read about. So the character's goal is driven by their lie, and they either unknowingly or knowingly embrace the lie, bringing them further from the truth. Negative arcs are usually villains, and that's why. So a progression of this is they believe a lie about the world. The world is horrible. I'm watching Avatar, The Last Airbender right now, and it's like the Fire Lord. Oh, the Fire Nation should rule. Like, you believe this lie about the world. So they leave their normal life and enter a world that reinforces the lie. And then as the story goes on, they're confronted with the truth, and the world isn't what they thought. So they realize that what they're doing is wrong, but they're still disillusioned by the truth. And they lose because they continue to cling to the lie. So their arc is obviously that downward spiral. They are not accepting the truth. They refuse to change, essentially. And they're changing for the worse. So negative arcs can include anti-heroes. So an anti-hero is a protagonist who lacks some of the conventional attributes of a traditional hero, like courage or morality. So while their actions are ultimately noble, they don't always act for the right reasons. These are the people that a lot of people like. People like anti-heroes. I love anti-heroes because it's that morally gray character that we like. An example of an anti-hero, they might save someone from a dangerous situation because it furthers their interests, not because they actually care about helping that person. So examples of some anti-heroes who have negative arcs are Walter White from the Breaking Bad TV series, Victor Vale in Vicious by V.E. Schwab. Sherlock Holmes is a classic one. Also, one of the first people that popped into my head was Annalise Keating from How to Get Away with Murder. And then Enon from Children of Blood and Bone kind of switches between being a hero and an anti-hero. So there's some characters that can be a little more complicated too. And there's also kind of the flip side of the anti-hero, which you don't really hear about as much, but this is the anti-villain. And so the anti-villain does the wrong thing, but their motives are often noble, or at least they're more sympathetic towards other people. Anti-villains typically have some characteristics we don't commonly associate with bad guys. And a good example of this is Prince Zuko from Avatar. And so I know some people can be kind of confused between the anti-hero and anti-villain. So if you're not quite sure whether your character is an anti-hero or an anti-villain, you can ask yourself, who does the story ask readers to root for? So if that character is morally gray, they're likely the anti-hero. And the morally gray character who opposes them is probably the anti-villain. So if we want to use an example of that, who does the story ask readers to root for? So you wouldn't be rooting for Prince Zuko. So he's not the anti-hero, but he opposes the morally gray characters, so he's the anti-villain. Okay, now here's another good part. We're going into how to keep your readers hooked using these character arcs that we've created. So you can keep the reader hooked from beginning to end with tension and suspense with where your character will end up. And so obviously, like if your character's trying to figure these things out, you have the conflict of this character's goal that they're working towards, then you know ways to like put stumbling blocks in your character's way. And you don't want to make it easy for them. And that's going to keep your readers reading because they want to know what's going to happen, and you're not making it easy. So, they might not come out on the other side. And this is big, you guys, you need stakes. So stakes are, if the character doesn't do A, then B will happen. And this is like a big thing for agents too. Especially if you're going the traditional publication route, and then obviously even if you're self or indie published, your readers want this too. They want to know, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the end? Because if the character doesn't get this, then this is going to happen. And so this is kind of what I was talking about before. You want to make sure you're choosing the right character as your main character. Because I know a lot of times if you're like plotting and outlining, you kind of have a couple characters that pop up in your head, but you want to choose the main character, or if you have multi-POV, a few main characters, like whose arc is the biggest, who has the furthest to go to reach their goal, who has the most that they can learn, who has the most to gain from being the hero, and who is the most resistant to change, because that's going to up the tension, because it's going to make it harder for them to actually change. And you can also think about which of your main characters is most like your reader, because that's the hero that your readers will connect with because it feels more like them. And then you want to determine what kind of hero or what kind of person your hero needs to be at the end that they aren't at the beginning of the novel, and show how that changes. So whether you're outlining it beforehand, you need to know what your character looks like at the end of the novel. They should be completely different than they are at the beginning, and the things that they do at the end of the novel, they would not have been able to do if they were the same person at the beginning of the novel. And that's going to help keep your readers hooked in that way, because they're fighting to see that change. And then if you're not outlining, then you want to make sure that you have that change at the end when you're editing. And then you want to find out what will really fix your hero's life. Your character will come out of the story differently than when they started. So that's it. They're not the same that they were in the beginning. So whatever will really fix your hero's life is a life lesson that they're learning. And it should be, in Save the Cat, they said it should be universal and inherently human. And this is what resonates with readers. So if you're like, oh yeah, what will really fix your hero's life is, this magic or something, like people aren't really going to connect with that. But it's like, if you have it be, they're finally coming to terms with the grief. So recently reading Tristan Strong, the main character is finally coming to terms with the grief of the loss of his best friend and what happened with losing his best friend. So it's like, oh my God, that is like everyone's experienced loss. So that's like universal and inherently human. So that's something that you want to think about too, something that people can connect with.